In this section, we're going to be looking at deductive reasoning. Deductive reasoning, sometimes called logical reasoning, is the process of reasoning logically from given statements or facts to a conclusion. So we're going to start by looking at a property. The property is law of detachment. The law states if the hypothesis, or P, of a true conditional is true, then the conclusion, Q, is true. So if we were to look at this in symbols, if P to Q is true, and P is true, then Q is true. In order to use the law of detachment, identify the hypothesis of a given true conditional. If the second given statement matches the hypothesis of the conditional, then you can make a valid conclusion. Now we're going to look at an example of using the law of detachment. Here we have the given statement: if a ray divides an angle into two congruent angles, then the ray is an angle bisector. So ray RS divides angle ARB, so that angle ARS is congruent to angle SRB. So first, let's identify the hypothesis and conclusion. The hypothesis is a ray divides an angle into two congruent angles. The conclusion is the ray is an angle bisector. And we can see that they are connected to each other. So the second statement matches the hypothesis of the given conditional. By the law of detachment, you can make a conclusion, and the conclusion would be ray RS is an angle bisector. So we were able to make that conclusion using the law of detachment. Because P is true, Q is true. Now we're going to look at the law of syllogism. If P to Q is true and Q to R is true, then P to R is true. The law of syllogism allows you to state a conclusion from two true conditional statements when the conclusion of one statement is the hypothesis of the other statement. Now we're going to look at an example of the law of syllogism. So to start off with, remember that if P to Q is true, so here we have if it is July, then you're on summer vacation. So in this case, it is July is going to be P, and the statement you are on summer vacation is going to be Q. So if that is true, and Q to R is true, which would be if you are on summer vacation, then you work at a smoothie shop, and here you're on summer vacation is going to be Q, and R is going to be you work at a smoothie shop. So if both of those two statements are true, then P to R is true. So if we take P, which would be if it is July, then we take R, you work at a smoothie shop, and put them together, that statement is also going to be true because of the law of syllogism.